be dangerous. It doesn't matter how many times he winds it around anything, if the rope isn't strong enough. Well, luckily he was. Russ walked away, eventually. The British and Australians call it abseiling. In America, it's known as rappelling. And that's known as jumping out of a window and smashing into a wall. Did someone say pendulum? Ah, the military, they'll know how to do it. Oh, maybe there's a manual they haven't read. Abseiling is a bit like a controlled fall using friction as a brake. Without friction, it's just a fall.
90-foot Valley Ha-Ha Falls in Rubio Canyon.
And his buddy is about to experience most of that drop faster than he was expecting.
Oh, snap! Holy...
When this climber slips, he instinctively lets go of his brake line. Falling just 15 feet can have an impact force of about 3 tons. He's lucky to walk away with nothing but bruises. I think we're all agreed that walls are unsuitable for running on, what with them generally being vertical and everything. Well, some people just have to push the envelope, don't they? Next time, just use the stairs like a normal person. If that's not put you off, then pay attention to the science before you go near a wall. Friction is the successful wall runner's friend. A fast run-up speed maximizes friction. The aim is to generate enough friction to push up against the force of gravity and grip the wall. Running with his body at near 45 degrees stops him falling over or sliding down. He springs off at the end and his momentum keeps him going. Get this right, and you'll look pretty cool as you run along a wall. Get it wrong, and you'll look like your dad. Oh, it is your dad. Yeah, it really does help if he hits the target. Wall running can be vertical too, providing the wall doesn't fall down. He must hit the wall, but not with his head. Turning a wall run into a successful wall flip doesn't have to be painful, but it often is. It doesn't matter if you take 1 step, 2 or more. The principle is the same. You need friction. First, he runs at the wall with speed, planting his foot firmly on the wall. That speed gives him the friction he needs to drive up. He pushes outwards to add angular momentum and avoid hitting the wall as he spins, then lands on his feet. So, all you need is speed and agility. Easy, isn't it? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, in order to complete your rotation in time, you have to tuck. A lack of speed means a lack of friction on his foot, so he only rotates enough to land on his head. If the target isn't securely fixed, you'll have issues creating enough force to change direction. It's even harder if you're trying to flip forward. He's just planted his foot too high on the wall. His body is angled like this, not this, so he can't push himself any higher and loses the airtime needed for rotation. So before he can tuck, gravity slams his body onto the pavement. What scientific principle was overlooked by these enthusiastic drag racers? The scientific principle overlooked by the driver of this dragster is torque. It's the engine's ability to rotate the wheels. The driving force of a drag car like this generates a massive amount of torque, but deliver too much torque too quickly. The whole car rotates and over it goes. I like things that are clearly labelled. Take the long jump. Does what it says on the tin. Jump a long way. What's hard about that? The current world record for long jump is over 29 feet, held by the USA's Mike Powell, and has now stood for over 22 years. Here's the science behind his leap into the record books. A great long jump needs horizontal velocity. Every extra 2 miles an hour can get you 3 feet further. The best long jumpers reach over 20 miles an hour and take off at an angle close to 21 degrees. They follow an arc up to 6 feet high at its peak and land extending the legs to help maximize distance. It also helps if you've got a nice soft surface to land on. Yes, a successful long jumper must have great coordination and timing. Sadly, these attributes rarely go hand in hand. Remember, speed 20 miles an hour, jump angle 21 degrees. But actually, jumping is of course crucial. Speed, angle. I bet the USA's Mike Powell doesn't land like that. An impact with over 600 pounds of force. He's trying to combine long jump, high jump, and hurdling. And fails in all three. If you don't want to crash land on the floor, then water can soften the impact. Oh, who put that there? All you need is the right speed and the right angle of takeoff. You won't see that at the Olympics, ever. Now, here's someone with confidence. Maximum run-up, good angle of takeoff. Yeah, that's why those pool signs say no running. They say a healthy life is all about balance, and I agree. But I'm not talking about a good diet and lots of exercise. I'm talking about simply keeping upright. What better way to end a night out with the boys? There's a humorous study of dizziness. The human body has developed systems to tell it where it is and how it's moving. I call mine a sat-nav. Dizziness is caused when a part of the brain called the cerebellum gets confused as it processes information from 3 of the body's major sense systems. The eyes, muscles, and the inner ear, where a fluid called endolymph moves in response to gravity and acceleration. It's the body's spirit level. To avoid getting dizzy, ballet dancers lock their gaze for as long as possible on a fixed point before moving, a technique called spotting. The eyes suppress the dizzying signals from the ears. With practice, the balancing part of their cerebellum can shrink, minimizing the dizzying effect. Some people enjoy all manner of fairground rides that pick them up and spin them round without getting the least bit dizzy. But we're more interested in people at the opposite end of the dizziness scale. This chap is managing to keep his head up straight. Is he contemplating a future in ballet? Well, he certainly hasn't got much of a future in football. You can tell she's trying to minimize dizziness by spotting, like a ballerina. And now she's falling, like a tree. When you bend over, spinning has a greater effect on the endolymph in your inner ears, and the dizzier you get. Nicely demonstrated. Spinning the fluid in your inner ears just makes you dizzy. It doesn't actually make other people appear green, but getting hit there just might. Feet off the ground and no spotting. How will her cerebellum fare? Badly. After spinning, the inner ear and brain take time to return to equilibrium, making your cerebellum think you're going in the opposite direction. You try to compensate, but instead, you fall over. Medieval knights, they were real men. They may be consigned to the history books now, but some brave traditionalists are keeping the spirit of the Middle Ages alive. Yes, it's at times like these I feel closest to the heroic deeds of past times. Horses, spikes, and speed. Real jousting can be deadly. But any kind of jousting depends on impact force and aim. The greater the combined mass of horse and rider, and the greater their speed, the greater the impact force from the lungs. With 1,500 pounds moving at 20 miles an hour, the impact exceeds 1,000 pounds of force, meaning a defeated jouster briefly experiences more Gs than an astronaut during takeoff. By hitting near the shoulder, it's easier to knock your opponent down, because the torque generated makes him twist and fall. These days, horses and armour are absent from most suburban homes, and we're poorer for it, in my opinion. But thankfully, some enthusiasts have repurposed medieval jousting for modern-day pleasure. It's a day out from the office, and these desk jockeys have brought their chairs. They've got the armour. They've got the speed. But the torque on those wobbly chairs spins them quickly into the dirt. Swivel on that, Lancelot. A direct strike on the shoulder sends this North Carolina knight butt first onto Yoldi Blacktop. Proper jousting depends on mass and speed to create impact force. You can't get much speed up on a unicycle, but you don't need so much force to knock your opponent down. Those chariots are not as heavy as a horse, and a hockey stick can be 10 times lighter than a lance. But with impact force and torque still playing a role, someone's going over. Adding speed increases the force experienced by your opponent. The force is within. No powerful horse and no heavy lance, but both jousters feel the same impact force and rebound. That's Newton's third law. To maximise your opponent's rebound, you need more weight to send them down. However you make your approach, as long as there's a direct hit near the shoulder, torque will twist your opponent to the ground. Remember, the combined force of the rider's weight, a trusty steed, and his weapon of choice all goes into the impact. But don't milk it. Oh, sorry. India recently launched a rocket to Mars, costing £45 million. That's cheap for a rocket, but still a bit steep for most of us. Luckily, in garages around the world, enthusiasts are finding cheaper and less intelligent ways to launch themselves into the air. Time to return Buzz Lightyear to demo mode. The problem with jetpacks is balancing power and control. Jet power depends on thrust to overcome weight and generate motion. High-speed ejection of fluid generates equal momentum in the opposite direction. Yep, you guessed it, Newton's third law. The bigger the payload, the more thrust is needed for liftoff. Jetpacks need to be both